And we are live. Yay! Hi, welcome. This is Dawn, no Sarah, and this is your Monday Empire Building Mastermind Hangout. And we are talking this week about something that I don't know if you guys saw the topic, but we are talking about leaving the pity party and powerfully serving your community. You know what? I think this is just a great place to start this spring and moving forward and getting ourselves collectively in this place of service and being willing to powerfully serve our communities and step away from the pity party because there's a lot of it going on, and when you're in it, you're a part of it. So if you're hearing it, just know that you're a part of the party. Because if you're hanging around people who are in the pity, then obviously you're a part of the party. So tough thing to hear, but that's the truth. And I have seen it in my life, and I just want to, I'm ready to get it out of that pity party, and not engage in it so much. I don't normally, but I've just noticed that there's a little bit of poor me syndromes that are going on and around, even with powerful coaches, even within leaders who have been doing our really good work for a long time, that they're like this moving forward. Every time we move forward, we seem to move, get a powerful vision of it, and then we're attracting, the powerful vision is also attracting everything that's coming up to the surface that wants to be released, that may stop you from going there. So sometimes that releasing of what's coming up attracts the pity party if you are not consciously aware that you're just releasing and you're not truly attracting. So we've talked about that before, but I think the conversation with a lot of people, I've heard these lately, is that that there's something shifting, and yes, that's true. It's you're shifting. We're always growing. We're constantly moving that in that way. And how can we powerfully serve and powerfully be in that state of self-appreciation for us stepping up instead of stepping back and being a part of whatever mass consciousness that we're moving from and we're getting ready to move to. So there's always a pity party no matter what level you're playing at. It's a different level of pity. You're playing with top 1%ers, there's still going to be one little, 95% of the top 1%ers are going to be in some kind of a pity party. I just want, you have to understand this. This is part of the universal, way life works. So no matter where you are, there's going to be people who are powerfully serving and people who are still trying to figure out how to get to something, and they're going to be in that state of, can be in a state of pity and a pity party. So I don't know. Do you have thoughts on that? I mean, are you noticing this too, or with the people around you, Andrea, or have you noticed it for yourself? I know that you've moved through so much, but I just thought I'd ask before we move forward. What does this mean to be in a pity party? Have you seen it around? Where have you left it behind? And
well, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out. I'm not saying I've never been on a pity party, because I probably for sure have.
Right.
Maybe on a really unconscious level. So I'm just trying to right now kind of consciously think about, when, let's say in the last 2 years, I'll just use these last 2 years, have I been on a pity party? Now, I know I was definitely on a pity party in terms of personal stuff going on, for sure, when I was in that whole stuff with Natalie. It was probably feeling very much like a pity party for me. And in terms of business, that I have to, my full truth, Dawn, is I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you kind of give me a couple of examples of what being on your pity pot regarding your business could sound like?
You know what? Here's what I'm going to do, because we're so not conscious of that we're in a pity party, and this is so true. Okay, so this is like a great question that you brought up. We're so not conscious of being in a pity party, but the evidence of being in a pity party is a lot more easier to spot than what kind of, what's really going on. And I don't even know if it's a pity party. But if we're not, excuse me, if we're not powerfully serving the people that we're designed to serve, then it's either a conscious choice to not, and we're going
We
to do
could be in
something
that
else.
trap then, right?
What's
We could have
that?
fallen into that trap. So if we're not powerfully serving those that we are meant to serve in whatever that way of service is to be, then we possibly have fallen into that trap of being in the pity pot, right?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So if you're not actually serving powerfully, meaning, working with the caliber of people that you want to work with, that your soul really is like wanting you to step up and serve. If you're holding yourself back, if you feel and the evidence of this is it touches every part of our lives. Like, how do we communicate in our family lives? We'll feel irritated, and we won't even know what it is. And I only can speak of this for myself, because I was feeling irritated, and I was like wondering, what's the irritation? What is this
Like a
irritation?
frustration.
Yeah, and it's sort of like an irritability, but not, you don't know where it's coming from, and you just kind of can't get
Yeah.
comfortable with yourself. And that is like a subtle, and it doesn't feel exactly like anxiety, but if you let your mind go, it might end up being anxiety. So when we get into this place, most people will say, okay, I got to take massive action, because they're so uncomfortable with this feeling. Let's take massive
Oh,
action.
I've been there. Then I've been there.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah,
exactly what you were describing.
yeah,
That knowing and wanting to be more and do more and have more,
yeah.
and then being in that place of, now I'm just going to throw this out there, because you had, when you started talking about the pity party, you had brought up a beautiful example of, often it's the stuff rising for us to clear.
Right.
So I'm not sure. I could have times touched on my pity pot, but I think I was much more in that space of the stuff was rising, so I could become aware of where it was and what it was I needed to do my work, so that I could clear all this stuff. And that's what I think. And of course, I guess I'm having some flashbacks.
Right.
The little party or the little pity pot that I was on. Yeah, because I was in that not understanding. Like, for me, it felt like a complete not understanding of, how is this even happening? Why is this even happening? If my intentions are to do one, and I receive the complete opposite of what my intentions are. And then, of course, I did what I thought I was supposed to do, and that was to go into hard, massive action, where now I freaking understand that all I kept doing was pushing up against, pushing up against, pushing up against. And that's okay, because then that led me on that other part of my journey, and
Right.
it's all okay. But yeah, the subtleties of the pity pot. Yeah.
And it's really funny, because so what we tend to do when we're in this and we're not even knowing it, is that we feel um or yeah, it's not even that we're feeling. We're afraid to feel that we aren't adding value to the world in some way, or that we're not enough. So we go into that massive action thing, but the massive action, here's the where I want you, the distinguishing mark here. this razor's edge, which really lets you know that you've been in a pity party in the past, or even you are in one right now, is that you're taking all kinds of massive actions, but you're not powerfully serving somebody, some person, some group, some, whoever your client is. You're not doing any serving. You're kind of like skirting around the outside of that, like you're doing the marketing madness that we talked about before. Like you're doing everything that you're thinking that is creating clients. It's so much BS, because all it's doing is creating activity to keep you busy so you never have to work with somebody. And this is really, and not that you don't have to really work with somebody, it's so that you stay small in who you do work with. Because mass marketing attracts people who respond to mass marketing. Powerfully serving attracts people who want to be powerfully served.
Yeah. And because
Yeah.
we're not powerfully, like this is a tongue twister now, Dawn. We are not powerfully serving ourselves at that stage. How in our insanity can we powerfully serve others? And I'm only going to speak for myself.
Right.
I was so not powerfully, I wasn't even serving myself any kindness. I was just serving myself a whole lot of real, more doubt, meanness. I could, the list, I could really probably make a substantial list here. So now that because you're bringing this up for conversation,
Right.
how would I have even served somebody in a powerful way when I was so being the complete opposite to myself?
Right.
And I know that that was all part of the greater plan, so that I could, so as I had just said earlier in our conversation, I could take a look at what needed to have that spotlight put on so that work could get done, so that I could, because, I look at us like, imagine like there's, I don't know, 100 trees planted in one area, and it's autumn, and all of those leaves have now just shed off those trees. Now imagine the amount of leaves that we have, right?
Right.
And we're raking and we're packaging it up and we're moving it. But until we finally get down to that thing, we've had to remove piles and layers, and that's where I have found myself. There was those so many leaves to be able to finally get to just the stuff that was just subtly the dusting on the bones and in the muscles and in the joints, because it is so subtle, but now it's a much easier clearing of this, right? Because I removed that stuff.
Because you've been doing the work. I mean, because you've really been doing a lot of your own centering on yourself and your own power, your own, being in the state of appreciation for yourself. And, that is, in itself, I have found that self-appreciation, kind of like clears so much of this without needing to be into self-abuse or go into a pity party, but we do.
Yeah.
So anyways, I love the way you sound that. Robin's watching from the outside. Hi, Robin.
Hey, Robin. Yeah. But this is a brilliant question about the pity party, because that's such an that's such a 12-step term. Being on your pity pot, pour me another drink. Or that alcoholic is just, or the really in that state of whining and complaining. But the state of the entrepreneur can look very different.
Right.
Right?
So it's
again, I'll just speak for myself. It was that confusion. It was that getting caught up in looking at what others or what would be viewed as a competitor or those in my industry are doing, and then I'm not doing that, and I'm supposed to be doing that, but I can't do that, and how am I supposed to do this? And oh, but they have more money, and they have money in their business to do, and where will I find? And it can come in all of those different directions at you, and then it took me out. Then it just freaking knocked me like boom down, stayed down for a bit with purpose, so that when I came back up, I came up clean and clear, not like that thinking I got to do massive action. I got to make this happen. I got to make that happen. No, this has to happen for my business.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
thanks for letting me share.
I love it, and I so love your self-awareness and your willingness to bring it all out and bring what you've experienced, to the conversation, because that's what this is all about, is having a conversation about what does this bring up, the pity party. And I love the fact that you brought up that it's about being addicted. Like they use this addiction, the pity party in the 12-step programs and addiction, which I didn't know that because I've not gone through a 12-step program. But I know that there's pieces of it that are just so powerful. But when this is so true, so when we're moving forward and we want to powerfully serve, truly, and this is no joke, truly there is an addiction to the way we are, or the way we, to our comfort zone, or to the easy stuff. And massive success is not difficult, but we're addicted to some story, and it's really, I'll just say that it's just that we're addicted to the story that we keep telling ourselves about why we can't powerfully serve. Okay? So it's that addiction to that, to the story that we keep telling ourselves, that is the pity party that we get ourselves in when it's, and that's there was so much power to this. This is amazing that you brought this up, because when you want to powerfully serve, you do it without a story about what would stop you. And your focus is really about serving the person who you're with, right? That's all it's just one person. And if your client is a community or a group of people, or if your client is a corporation, then you're powerfully serving that one corporation at a time, right? And it's really hard. It's hard work. The hard work comes when we're not present to the one in front of us, and we're not present to our power when we're serving, and our power to bring out the best in them, whoever we're serving. And we're, worried about, where do you get the next client? All kinds of crazy stuff. Where do you get the next client? Where are, even sometimes thinking about the problem instead of thinking about, oh wow, there's a great, this problem's revealing something that really can transform this whole corporation or this whole person. And not being willing to powerfully serve and say, oh, I see this, and call people out. I mean, that's not the topic of this conversation, but being in the pity party and moving into powerful conversations, we can't do that when we're addicted to the story. And that,
absolutely.
Yeah, and so the one thing that I have, I read this a long time ago, and I can't remember where I read it, and years ago. There's a couple things that about the story. One is, I was sharing with a client that stories, when we're telling a story to somebody else, the whole telling a story, it softens the barrier between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So it kind of like gives you an opening, so you can make shifts in somebody's perception and the way they view the world. And that's truly, stories change consciousness. That's what they do. our stories that we use to ourselves are keeping us in the same state of consciousness that we've always been in. So we have to start telling ourselves a new story. The thing that I heard so long ago, that cat little piece, is that the story is so powerful to open up our subconscious, is that the kind of the other end of the story is that the only thing standing in the way of you and effortless action is a story. The story that you're telling yourself. And I remember thinking that, I'm like, oh my gosh, so if we could just take action from a storyless place, like there's no story to tell me like why I can't take this action, or or what is what I'm being called to do. If I can just serve powerfully without buying into the other person's story, which is just the best way to coach somebody, is to not buy into their stories. And that's one of the things that makes me a great coach, is I don't buy into anyone's stories. I buy into their vision, not their stories. But yeah, so there's a story that keeps us in the way of not massive action. There's not, when we're taking massive action, the story is, I got to do this, I should do this. That's the only story we're telling ourselves. And we're not even looking at, oh, what story would keep me from doing this? Is there a story in there that I'm telling myself over and over again in my pity party that would keep me from powerfully serving my community, my person, the person you right now, Andrea? Is there a story that I'm telling myself that would stop me from powerfully serving you right now in this conversation? And when I'm thinking about it and I say, right now, I can say no because I'm in the conversation. But for some people, the getting ready to is what's the hardest part. It's the gap between where they are and where they want to be. So there's usually just a story.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes so much sense. When you're in a space of when you're in that flow, everything is just so very effortless.
Mm-hmm.
So very effortless.
Right.
When we're in that opposite state, that's when our stories become even that much more important to us. And the addiction gets stronger. The insanity builds. The frustration builds. The doubt builds. All of it just, it's like the predator.
Yeah.
And that's the time somebody seriously needs to work with a coach.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when those are the times when if we're in those spaces, getting coaching, receiving coaching from somebody and being able to care for yourself enough to know, you know what? I'm aware that I'm in this pattern of telling a story. I'm so in it. The web of the story has, woven so powerfully in my subconscious. I don't even know what story I'm telling myself. But obviously I'm not moving forward effortlessly. How can I, or who can I look to help me through this? And that's when a coach is so, invaluable, is they can really help you move through that.
Because that's when you really should not be left alone. And it's funny because
that's so true.
you shouldn't be left alone with your business at this point.
Right, because you're going to spin some wheels.
You're going to either completely halt it, or you're gonna keep bringing it back and notches, and then huge risk. Because I remember years ago wanting to do network marketing, and we had affiliations at different times with some very, very amazing companies, right? And the caliber of the individuals that were in there, and And you'd always hear about how network marketing always pushes us, and it brings up that stuff, and I remember always and knowing that and feeling that. Well, I'm just going to tell you that being that entrepreneur, that flipping trumps that by miles, and it pushes you, and it is such a spiritual journey, and it pushes one to limits that they didn't even realize, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It pushes a growth and a ownership of oneself and claiming, really like claiming, staking your claim, stepping into your greatness and your power. And I'm sure for lots of people it can be a very smooth ride and a nice smooth transition, and for others, like how it was for me, that was not the case. Mine was an incredibly bumpy ride, like huge potholes. You know?
And that's okay too, because look at all that you've learned from that.
Yeah.
And you can really powerfully, so we move now into this powerfully serve, so we're out of the pity party, and now we can powerfully serve from our experience, and most importantly, just from being able to hold a storyless space, or just holding a space where people can hear themselves talk, because and it doesn't matter, if you're, like Mark is selling his comedy hypnotherapy shows, or not hypnotherapy, comedy hypnotism shows, and it doesn't matter if you're doing that or if you're doing coaching. There's still a very powerful conversation that you can have with somebody, and that raises the bar, because most people aren't willing to powerfully serve in a way that is, I'm present to what is going on in your organization. I'm present to what you need, how I can serve you the best, and just really being in that space. I can't mute him. I wish I could. My thing won't work with the mobile users. Yeah, okay, got it. So, being able to powerfully serve
Yeah.
is this is where we have to move to. Not we have to. If you feel like this is your place, if you feel, and usually when we work through this work of self-appreciation, we get to a point where we're like, oh, okay, I get my own power. I can powerfully serve. That's like, it's like, oh, one day you wake up and you're like, wow, I have got so much to offer just because I made the shift from self-abuse to self-appreciation. And if I can do that, I can do anything. Like that's the magical, if you can turn that corner, you can pretty much turn any corner in life.
That's because that is a massive corner to turn, because when you're making that shift in that corner and that turn,
right,
you have now are on the path of most allowing.
yeah,
You are on the path of discovering and uncovering your everything of
yeah,
who you. That is just, that's a huge, huge thing to go from self-abuse to self-appreciation and self-love.
yeah.
That's major, 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 major.
And that's it. And if you've done that work, and this is something you can this kind of thing is something that you can do yourself, but most people are just not willing to do it, unless they have somebody like me going, like this, you have to do it if you're going to work with me. There's not.
You know what though? I first of all, okay, listen. When anybody's wanting to make any type of change, and I'm talking serious change,
Right.
not, oh, I'm going to color my hair a different hair color.
Right.
Those serious kind of changes.
Mm.
They're always looking for somebody to assist them through it.
Right.
So, we were just mentioning, about the whole pity pot and the addict. Well, what does an addict do when they want to make change? They'll join a support group, or they get a sponsor, or they get somebody to give that structure. Well, when you're self-abusive and you're in that self-loathing, and it can be very, tricky, and to outsiders it can appear that they wouldn't even think or guess or peg you for the self-abuser or the
Right.
self-loather. It's most important to you, Dawn, and your program and its structure, and because we can all say, I'm going to make this change. This is the change that I desire to make within myself. And be really easy to drop the accountability and to, kind of like, oh, today, no, I don't really feel like today. And then to just, those patterns are too strong.
Yeah, and you're so
Patterns
right.
and the
Yeah.
holds are much too strong.
Yeah. And Napoleon Hill calls it the law of cosmic habit force. There are habits that we have in place, habits of being that keep us spinning in the same, like it's like the planets around the sun, right? There's a law of habit force that keeps them spinning predictably, right? And it's kind of it's the laws of the universe that keeps the planet so perfectly aligned that we can calculate exactly where the planets are going to be 150 million years from now. I mean, like there's a calculation that exactly where the planets are going to be in our sky 150 years from now. That's pretty phenomenal, and to understand that truly understand the laws of the universe in that way is to say, I really do need help because you can't. You're so in your spin pattern. You're in your trajectory. You're going around your own sun, whatever point and at whatever pace you're going through, and it's really hard to see those invisible forces, and I call them invisible fences that keep us in that same pattern. So yes, you definitely, we do need help. I mean, that's the power of being in a mastermind group with people who will say, you know what, I'm tired of your story, because sometimes that's what happens. Or like, hey, what's going on? Let's get a little deeper. And if you don't have a group like that, get a coach. And coaching, and I have, the most powerful people have masterminds, and they have a coach. So both of those, they're doing both of those simultaneously because what they can get from one group of people is one thing, but what you get from private coaching is something totally different. Um, yeah. So, but the law of cosmic habit force keeps us in connected like glue to the habits that we have. And that's why when you go to change a habit, one of the most effective ways to change a habit is by connecting the habit that you want to add to the habit that you already have. So, like if you have a habit of brushing your teeth and you want to create a habit of, doing daily affirmations. I mean, this is just like a little example, but add your affirmations on the mirror when you're brushing your teeth. So, like when you're done brushing your teeth, you're still in the state of a habit, and you're there, and you can just look at your affirmations. Or draw a circle with a dry erase marker on your mirror and write, I appreciate myself on it, and do your mirror work. And yeah, that's, I mean, I do that. If I'm I take a dry erase marker with me when I go places, so I can write things on the mirror if I want to.
Yeah.
um,
No, and it's about creating new neural pathways,
yeah. Yeah.
because, when it's not all about me, but, I'll just use myself as the example here.
Right.
Mine were very deeply, deeply ingrained. It didn't take overnight to get there, nor will it take overnight to create new ones for myself. And it is about joining communities of masterminds, finding that coach to work with. Really, really appreciating yourself, to honor yourself, and to get that support and have that support surrounding you in this journey of becoming the entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially as heart-centered ones.
And yes, yeah, and especially as heart-centered entrepreneurs, you're so right. So moving into like away from that self-pity, like, that's being all of those things that we talked about is about, like if we're just doing the massive action, if we're doing that and it feels like we're just kind of like skirting around the outside of the results that we really want. Oh, thanks. Thanks. I couldn't do it here. But skirting around the outside of the of the result that we want. And then that's truly, if you're not getting the results that you want in life, it's most likely because of the actions that you're taking. It's not because of something that you're not doing. It's probably because something that you're doing that's not giving you space to really tap into something deeper and something more powerful and something that's in you already that wants to emerge. I mean, this is the truth of it. You're running away from your soul most oftentimes by taking so much massive action. And I just heard this great story of someone had this great program where they were, turning everything into a game, which is really good, but there's a fine line between making action a game for the sake of making action a game and being in the state of appreciating the connections that you're making by playing the game, right? And it's a subtle little thing, but there was no talk about a deep connection, being in a state of appreciation for the people that you are talking to, and not that you're in it gushing over them, but being in the state of appreciation for the relationship that brought you guys together in the first place. Thank you, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you for being on my side. Thank you, the laws of the universe for bringing us together, because I get to powerfully serve. Someone gets to receive my powerful service. So we're moving, like I want to just kind of like fall out of this or exit this week's hangout with this conversation or just this touching. And how can you powerfully serve? How can you more powerfully serve? And what does that look like for you? And I'm bringing the conscious awareness. I'm asking the question, what powerful service do you have? And we're talking about this, like, as and it goes in, if you're hearing this and you're trying to figure out where does this go in empire building, my guess is you've already figured it out. Where does all of this, powerfully serving go into the empire building process? This is about your offer. This is also about inspiring action, because when you powerfully serve someone, they are inspired to work with you. They feel their own, they feel like you give them space to say yes to themselves, right? Like, finally somebody gets me. Finally somebody understands what I need if you're doing the comedy shows. Finally somebody's going to give us some, a caliber of service that matches our desires and our needs. Finally. So this is what I want to talk about that. What are you doing now? What is your powerful serve? How can you more powerfully serve? Because we're always about growing. It's not about a goal. Remember, it's about growth. How can you more powerfully serve? Hi, Robin. I see you.
I'm so happy finally could step in,
Hmm.
and I'm loving what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're here and just to say hi.
Thank you. Yeah, it's this idea of powerfully serving. I didn't hear all of what you talked about, so hopefully I'm not repeating, but this idea that we get past ourselves, our puny fears,
Hmm.
and just offer what we've got. Because to me, it's dancing with the divine is like, okay, the opportunity to work with someone is to dance with the divine in them and with me. And that's how I'm overcoming my own fears and like the threshold that I feel like I'm stepping over right now.
Yeah, and you're powerful. I mean, you're completely. I've always known that you're powerful drawer. Like consciousness raiser.
Yeah.
And I've always said that because you're always raising my consciousness about myself, and that's the shifts. That's the stuff that is so powerful. How can we do that so fully? Like, so share with me and the rest of us. How are you doing that, Robin? Now, like, how are you more powerfully serving? I know you just said that, but like, can you?
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I thank you so much, Mark. Gosh, thank you. I put a little email out, and I had a bunch of people just show up who wanted to talk with me, and I spoke with a couple of them, and one of them I feel him.
Are you mute?
I just floated with him. I floated in his floating of discovery about himself because he's this massively powerful guy and he's in this big discovery point. And now I realize that the real powerfully serving him would be to actually step out and make an offer to him and allow us to create something in that space bigger than I could have conceived. It doesn't have to be huge. I'm not saying it's that.
Right.
It's just this idea that I could step into that unknown and we could create something together because I feel like we're called to. But I was trying to make it like work with the plan I already had, like my little signature program, and I wasn't seeing that connection.
I know. And so here's another thing too. And I got to tell you this because this is, I have this empire building program, right? I have this.
Mm-hmm.
I taught this without realizing that I was teaching it, like in a private coaching, right? It came from, okay, somebody has to mute him. Can you mute him, Mark? Thank you.
There.
Sorry.
Yeah, I really want to hear what you're saying, Dawn.
And Andrea's going to have to leave soon. So, and thanks, Andrea, for your help here. But, gosh, I just lost my train of thought.
You were
Oh, we're saying
building,
about,
you were
yeah.
teaching it without realizing.
Yeah, so I was teaching people and I was walking them through this, but I was doing it while I was coaching. So like it was the next natural step would be like like the first thing people would do with me would be let's get this, your mind in alignment with easy and effortless, business, easy and effortless manifestation. Let's find those limiting beliefs that are standing in your way. Let's dive deep into that. That's what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would move them into creating an offer.
Mm-hmm.
Like what would be the ideal, your ideal client, what would be the ideal offer?
Mm-hmm.
And, if they're not a coach, coaching is open, you know, but people who aren't coaches really need more of a system. Okay.
Yeah.
Like if you're a coach, if you're a professional coach, you don't necessarily need a system. But nobody will tell you that because there's so many things out there marketing the system, right? And you'll notice that nothing in empire building is marketing telling you to create a system, having an offer, knowing like what's the parameters, creating something that you can say, this is the container I want to work with you. Whatever your container is going to be different for everybody. What do you want? Some people
Yeah.
want to create a year-long container. But so I was doing this and coaching these people through this process before I realized it was a process. You can do that. You can powerfully coach somebody. And I want you to hear this, Robin, because I think that this will powerfully serve you while I'm sharing it, is that your system may or may not be the thing that the person wants to hear about right now, because a system might not be what he wants. But if you're listening really closely, he's going to let you know what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And if he just wants space to figure it all out, then you can powerfully say, I am a master space holder, because you are, all coaches are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can hold that space, and we can play this game together.
Yeah.
And you know, and if it turns out that you use your system that you have with him, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's been seemingly the hang up for me is I didn't have a system, but it doesn't have to be, okay, first you do one, then you do two. It's more like a jigsaw puzzle with all the pieces. And we don't really necessarily have we may not do all the pieces with somebody, but it's just what are all the pieces that comprise something in its entirety that are possible. And then but why I feel like I need to have something like that is for myself, for my sense of boundaries, because otherwise I overgive.
Yeah. Well, so this is a great. Can I just offer you one more final
I
thought?
love it.
Because I'm feeling this is how I can, most powerfully serve you. And I'm saying that because this is what the topic today is: powerful service. When you're speaking to this guy one more time, or if you already spoke to him, I would speak to him again, and powerfully find that, get back to the conversation and hear him again.
Yes.
At the very end of it, when you are clear on what he really wants.
Yes.
Then you can say, I have, like, here's what I propose. You can do your proposal however you want. Like, I'm sure you've got a script, but give the pieces that you have in your program and your system that you feel that are the best match. You're going to use your intuition.
Yeah.
You're going to connect those pieces together, like the puzzle pieces. This is his needs, and this is what I have. And then at the very end, say, this is what I propose that we do, like that this is a piece that we do, this is a piece that we do, and this is a piece that we do.
Yes.
And is there anything else that would make this a perfect service for you?
Yes.
Is there anything else that you need in order for me to serve you the most powerfully? He'll tell you. He'll tell you what he needs.
Yes.
And then you can say, awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. And then you can go on to your,
yes.
do your closing however you've been doing it. But
yeah. Yeah.
But that's my suggestion, is take those pieces out and put them there, because not everybody that I work with needs the priming of the pump with the mindset stuff. Some people have gone through tons of mindset training that they say, I don't need that, which is BS anyways. That's the belief system that they don't need it. But I won't start, because if their consciousness is if their conscious mind is telling them, I'm not going to try to convince them. That's not my job. And that's how this is another piece of distinction between, and I know, Andrea, you have to go, but one of the distinctions here when you powerfully serve someone, you never try to convince them to work with you.
Yeah. And I just want to add this one little thing before I leave. First of all,
I haven't offered him anything.
The jigsaw puzzle metaphor. I love that. Yes, because each client comes at a different place at that starting line. Just like you said, Dawn, some may have done deeper work on the whole mindset. Of course, mindset is always there because our mind is always with us. So that's something, you'll never really move away from. But it may be different for me, right? And I'll have had, only done a little bit of mindset work. And then you'll have Robin, your client, who's been, the last 3 years of, but we're coming at different starting places. So you get to pick in that quasi-system as to what pieces are an excellent fit for that individual client because they are unique. And then that was something when I would have conversations with after doing a discovery session with somebody and them wanting to know what my system for coaching. I've never really had a system. I'll lead you through a process, but I always make it tailored to that individual because, again, everybody starts at the starting line at a different place.
Right. And for you, Andrea, I would write down what your process is because that's most likely your system.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. You're right. Okay, and I'm going to leave you guys, and I'll see you Wednesday morning.
Bye. Love you.
Bye. Love you, Andrea.
Okay, guys.
So, Robin, really want to hear what you were finishing up with something. I want to make sure that you get.
Yeah. Well, I feel like for some reason, it was the place in which I was coming from that was actually helping create that float for him that was then returning back to me as a float rather than as it was really hard for me to get, let's make this concrete. Because it felt to me like, and I even said this to him, you're in this, do you need to decide right now? Do you need to make something firm right now? Or is it okay to be in this discovery? Because that's what it feels like to me. And then after I got away and thought a little more, so it's me listening to myself and what's really happening over here is, how could I most serve him? Well, I could be with him in that discovery, and we could put some identifiers on what's there in ways he hasn't, so it helps him with what he's discovering, and that would be a powerful service for him.
Yeah, there's so much you could do. I mean, yes, yeah. And so here, you know what I think, Robin? I think you could really benefit from a, just re-clarifying or easing up on the words that you've been taught, on how to close. And just a softening of that, and a powerful softening, meaning it's softened, but it's powerfully you.
Yeah.
And yeah. So, and I'm sure I can help you with that, but
well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, and Mark's got a final thought. Let's see if we can hear him.
Yay, I can hear you.
I had a hard time earlier, but yes, go ahead. Wow. It is amazing.
Wow.
You know, and serving powerfully, because that's what you're doing. I mean, this is such a powerful serve.
Yes.
I know. You know what? Yeah, and this is one of the things that we have to start doing for ourselves. We have to start recognizing and being okay with saying, I am powerfully serving. This is, well, yes, that's one. but yes, Great. Yes, I love that. So thank you so much for hypnosing me, for giving me the hypnotic cues to say exactly what you wanted me to say. But
Ha ha ha.
yeah, it is
Mhm.
so much. Yeah, and yes, yes, it is. It's so much. That's so true. Being present to your own power and allowing somebody else to say it is really divine. That's because if you can receive it when somebody else is saying it without deflecting it, also, Mark, making it about something, about it being, like let's, make it about something else, hypnotic something. I'm calling you out here. So being present, how sweet it is, anyways, but being in your power and powerfully receiving that appreciation. I mean, that's divine. So,
Mhm.
I
Mm.
hope this week served you powerfully. That's
Mm.
what I hope that this conversation today was a little bit more moving us, helping us move from that pity party to that powerful shift. And so, thank you, Mark, for ending us with another great.
Mm. Mhm.
Super. Thank you for that.
Really well
Thank
done.
you. Yes, yeah, we heard some of it. We heard it because we weren't muted. So the toilet flushed and all kinds of stuff. So all right, yeah. I'm like, I couldn't mute you. I couldn't do it. And Andrea was trying to mute you. Anyways, great hangout. I'm so glad you guys were here. I'm going to stop the broadcast. And if you guys want to stick on for another couple minutes, go ahead and I will talk to you in the back room.
Okie
Love
dokie.
you.